session. I'll say very briefly a few things about the Common Ecology School, just because there's a few people, including Stefania, that have just kind of arrived, and we kept it short earlier. Common Ecology School is a project we're really excited about, that we've been dreaming about for many years, across different places, and which is a movement school for thinking the ecological crisis and climate crisis across different struggles and places, linking it to feminist struggles, labor struggles, etc. A space to kind of forge new concepts and alliances also, and have strategic debates, as well as share concrete tools. So we're running courses online for now. Some of them are a bit more conceptual and teachy. Some of them are a lot more kind of hands-on and tools-based, or featuring more strategic debates. Each course has its own focus. We'll hear in a minute about the second course that will start also in a month. We have some, we want to learn from reference, thinkers, activists that we really, like Stefania, that we think can really contribute to our debates and to our struggles. And Common Ecologies as such starts as an online project with its roots in mostly Vienna, Berlin, and Barcelona. But we will be having in-person events too with time. First thing will be our summer school, which will happen in Berlin at the end of August. But we're starting online to kind of start building a network, but the idea is that there will also be a component of real space.
Yeah, I will just briefly show you the website that will help you get an overview of what the project is, I think. Which will go here. So the website, which I would guess you all know, because that's how you register. But just to show you that we now have launched our second course. The registrations are open for that. It's on climate and the social question. And we also have a summer school prepared, which is more about reflecting on what kind of knowledges we need in the struggle for transition and social justice.
Are you recording?
I am recording, yes.
Okay, everybody got that note.
Yeah.
Just for your info, we're recording the presentation part of the session, but we will not be recording the collective debate. So,
part of the basis of the Common Ecology School is these two podcasts, the Earthcare Fieldcast, of which there is so far 5 episodes on our website and more to come, and the Spade Work podcast. The Earthcare podcast, you can imagine what it's about. It's the topic of the session today and of the course here. And the second one, the Spade Work podcast, is made by Daniel and Antje, who are part of the collective, which is focused more on organizing, trade union movement, housing movement, climate movement, and other spaces of organizing. And yeah, do check out our the second course and see if you're interested, and feel free to share the call around as well. Yeah.
And so in this course, we want to build a process that is, in as much as possible, continuous across the sessions. So to have a chance to also really have a collective conversation that stretches across time, linking different movements, particularly approaches from different feminisms, food sovereignty, climate, and kind of labor, precarity, and syndicalist movements. And I think particularly we're interested in, on the one hand, building synergies and concepts across like agroecological feminism and climate justice. And not just for the sake of building relations, but also I hope throughout the sessions we'll find ways of also kind of identifying what and who we are struggling against. So, against like greenwashing and green grabbing that is going on. So to identify some of the kind of enemies and the actual problems that we're up against today. I guess Stefania might mention some of those also. Carbon offsetting and all these various schemes. We also want to really think in this course across urban and rural movements, obviously, against the separating out of productive and reproductive spheres, and the exploitation of peripheries and migrants and subaltern subjects, We also want to think across the spheres of struggle and knowledge production. Not that these two are separate for us, but institutionally speaking, they are often separate, with the university here and, you know, organizing there. And that's something that with common ecologies in general, we would really like to change. And so we're really excited also about the question of how do we produce movements, and how do we produce knowledges in social movements, and what kind of knowledges do we need, and how do we want to be using them. And that's something that we love to hear from you through your thoughts about throughout, but we really specifically also discussed that in our summer school in Berlin. We also really want to forge translocal debate with this course and with common ecologies in general, which involves obviously kind of translational efforts, which is why in this course it's particularly a kind of translational efforts towards some Spanish-speaking context. But we'll have that going on in different courses as well. And yeah, and we want to see what concepts are useful to us. So today we begin with Earthcare, the forces of reproduction, etc. But we'll hear about other concepts as well, like feminist and anti-racist social syndicalisms in the next session, popular peasant feminisms, ecofeminism, etc. And yeah, I think we've said enough about the course infrastructures. For anybody who came late, there is a pad for this session. There will be a pad for every session of this course where we're going to post all relevant kind of links, and where you are very, very welcome to post extra links to materials that you think are relevant, and where we'll be posting notes as well. I think it's just been posted again in the chat. And just to very briefly repeat it, our continuous infrastructure within the course will be a Slack space. So the people joining this course throughout will have the possibility to communicate with each other and share materials on Slack. Anybody who hasn't signed up to the core group but wants to be part of that and join the Slack, please drop us an email, and then we'll send you an invitation to that. Enough for intros.
No,
well, for technical intros.
We need to introduce Stefania briefly.
Now comes the real intro.
So obviously, we're here today to hear Stefania Barca, who's a wonderful researcher, a wonderful feminist, political ecologist, environmental historian, who well, she's written a lot of very interesting things, including about labor environmentalism, but also about Earthcare struggles, and about, well, challenging the narrative of the Anthropocene and so on. Specifically, I'm talking about her recent book that we've shared with you, The Forces of Reproduction, which I really recommend you dip into and read if you haven't had the chance yet. Stefania is a professor at the university in Santiago de Compostela, is that right? And as well has an affiliation to the university in Umeå in Sweden. Uppsala, sorry, Uppsala, or had. So without any further ado, well, actually one thing I also want to add is, the reason we invited Stefania is that in the book, The Forces of Reproduction, she develops a lot of concepts that can help us bring together and articulate the different concerns that people come into this course with, that we've seen when you're sharing in the Jamboard earlier. She has concepts that can help us articulate and think through these different struggles in a way that both gives us an overview and analytical understanding of the world, but also helps open for strategic discussions about what to do. So, Stefania, please.
Okay, so thanks for this nice introduction, and thanks for inviting me to this this course. I'm very happy of being here and meeting all of you. I hope you are all well. And I'm okay. I'm just a bit tired after a long day of work, but I'm also excited of having this conversation with all of you. So what I will do is I will give you some elements extra with respect to the readings that Bue and Manuela shared with you already. So I'm I'm not going to summarize what I've already written, but rather I would like to share with you some more recent reflections and also work that I'm doing, activist work that I'm doing to you know, also sharing questions I have and doubts and problems and challenges that so that we can have a real conversation and try, you know, figure things. I mean, figure out is not a nice word, but thinking together about these challenges. That's what I would like to do. So basically, the thread of all this is what are the political implications for the concept of forces of reproduction, which is not just a theoretical concept, but it's meant to have to be a political tool, and so this is related to a broader question: what is the place of the feminist movement in climate politics today? Because this is the connection that I am mostly interested in working on, and I think it's since I adopted the ecofeminist perspective, because I think that this is a necessary linkage to be made between anti-patriarchal struggles and climate struggles. So this broad question is informing my work in a specific area, which is of policy thinking and advocacy and grassroots organization and campaigning, which is the area of just transition. Just transition is a concept that comes from originally from the labor movement, from trade unions, and it's been appropriated very properly so by the climate justice movement, by indigenous movements, because of its potential for radical change, no? Because we are in a time when we are at a point in history when this discourse of ecological transition is becoming dominant, no? It's becoming the official discourse also at the EU level and also at the national levels, due to the decades of efforts from the IPCC and from all other ecological movements, both mainstream and grassroots. Finally, I mean, there is some widespread awareness that we are at a point in history in which we do need to transition towards a post-carbon society, no? So this is the historical context in which we are now. The point is, what does this transition mean? What would it look like? And what kind of transition are we imagining? And what kind of transitions are different social subjects imagining and implementing and designing through policies, but also struggling through social mobilizations. And here there is a variety of ideas on what the transition, the ecological transition, should look like. That we can group mostly in two broad groups: let's say the green growth, green economy, green capitalism, let's say, promoted by the European Union, by most states, most governments, and policymakers and institutions at all levels, no? Which is also compatible with the Sustainable Development Goals, with the UN green economy strategy more broadly. And then there is a different, at the opposite side of this, there is a much more grassroots understanding of the ecological transition, which is more transformative, which demands not only a post-carbon society, but also a more just society. And so it demands not only change in technologies and in markets and in the economy, broadly speaking, but it demands changes in society. And this is what the I mean, this distinction is the division between these two broad spheres of understanding of just transition is the line along which I mean, I position myself, and many others are positioning themselves, and many movements are positioning themselves along this line. So this is where the real work now needs to happen, because it is one thing to say we want a different society. It is another thing, much more difficult and challenging, to explain what kind of society, what do we mean by transformation, and what can be done, and how, and to what, in the name of who, of what social groups, of what social constituencies, who does this just transition represent, no? So challenging a little bit the idea that there is a we, a general global we that is a homogeneous humanity, no? The anthropos, as you may have heard. So here the challenge is really to understand, and also to move things a little bit towards the direction of social of convergences, alliances among different social movements that might recognize their specific struggles as allied struggles. This is the vision that I am mostly working with. The vision of alliance among different social movements, because even this is a term that might resonate with militarist language. It is also a term, alliance is also a term that has been mobilized and used by social movements historically to struggle for common aims without leveling out, canceling, ignoring, or silencing differences. Because, of course, we are not at a point in history where we can believe that there is only one global social subject, like, you know, the proletariat or something like that, that is homogeneous subject struggling for against capital. This is, of course, I mean, this was a dream for a long time, but history also challenged it, and we also, I mean, and I think that now we really need to recognize differences. I wouldn't say identities, because I don't believe in identities. I believe in differences in the sense of positionalities, no? Different positions that every subject occupies in the system, in the social system, and these differences are important to recognize, and lead to different struggles. But at the same time, we do need to understand how these struggles can support each other, and so that's why I say be allied with each other towards some common horizon, let's say, no? Okay, this was a very long introduction, but it was just to say that the just transition that I was mentioning before is a historical opportunity. The just transition strategy is a historical opportunity of appropriating this discourse of ecological transition and making it into a radical political demand. No, but this requires that we really make an effort to understand and to imagine, to give it content, no, give some political content, specific content to this just transition. So from my point of view, the just transition it's crucial that the just transition is intended in a feminist, trans-feminist, eco-trans-feminist way. So because it's simple and it sounds like a very abstract concept, but then in the end it's quite simple. If you talk about like some trade union confederations and mainstream also labor organizations do, they talk about just transition in terms of leaving no worker behind, no, in the post-carbon transition. But the idea of leaving no worker behind actually leaves a lot of people behind, because it leaves behind all those who do not have jobs or the wageless, and this is a huge amount of people, globally speaking, but also in different national contexts. And also when they speak about when you look at their strategy, they are thinking about not only waged workers, but specific kinds of waged workers. The waged workers in the fossil fuel sectors, or in sectors with a high content of carbon emissions, which is, of course, makes a lot of sense, no? Because the idea is that these are the sectors of the economy that need to shut down, no? And so we need to shut down polluting facilities and coal mines, coal power plants, etc., etc. So the just transition strategy, intended in a very restricted sense, is about what happens to the workers in these sectors, as a matter of social justice, but also as a matter of gaining consensus, no, of these particular workers. But of course, this is a very restricted approach, and so personally, I think that if we want to speak about just transition in a broader sense, we need to include the wageless work, and specifically we need to include care work in what we are imagining as a just transition. And we need, my understanding is that care work is not only essential work, no, but it's also low carbon work, no, work that that is not contributing rising carbon emissions, not contributing to the biodiversity crisis, which is also, the other side of the crisis, which is very often left aside when we speak about climate change. Climate change, we are actually leaving out the whole biodiversity loss, which is an enormous crisis at this very point in time. So care work can be understood as that sector of labor in society that is both contributing to social well-being and at the same time contributing to I say with a very sort of a slogan, keeping the world alive. What I mean with this is that care work is contributing to the reproduction of the human species, at the same time also the reproduction of the biosphere. When we think of care labor in a broader sense, not just domestic labor, but also many other forms of care labor that are for community care and care for the land, care for the territory, care for other species and other living beings, and care for the well-being of human and non-human nature as interrelated to one another. So this is the kind of care labor that as a whole, care for humans and care for non-humans and care for the biophysical environment that allows for a healthy planet and people. This is the kind of labor that we really, really need to support and to expand in society and to dignify, because so much of this labor is not only unpaid, but it's also considered as not labor, as is considered as is unvalued, not valued in many ways. So so in a nutshell, this is what I would this is the let's say the approach that I'm interested in bringing forward with political struggles. So for example, contributing to discussions within the International Trade Unions Confederation, within single trade union organizations, and also within coalitions that are forming between trade unions and climate justice movements. And for example, at the COP26, if you look at the COP coalition that formed around COP26, if you go on their website, you will find a lot of initiatives that are being organized in the past 2 years in an effort of alliance, of convergence between trade union organization in different sectors and climate justice and also social justice organizations. So this is already happening, no?
Can I just quickly say 5 minutes roughly?
Yeah, okay. So let me say, well, what can I tell you in these 5 precious minutes? Yeah, well, I would say that in this framework, one concrete initiative that I've been working with has been the campaign, the Care Income campaign. I don't know if any of you has come across with this campaign so far, but let me just briefly tell you what is it about, and then maybe we can discuss it. So care income is a concept that comes from the degrowth movement, and in connection, in convergence with the Global Women's Strike. The Global Women's Strike is a feminist organization that is organizing since the early 70s. It was known back then, it was known as the Wages for Housework movement and campaign. And now this movement has resisted for half a century, and it's now called Global Women's Strike. And the convergence between these two perspectives, degrowth and also the Green New Deal, this convergence between degrowth and the Global Women's Strike happened within a campaign for the Green New Deal in Europe. And this campaign was initiated in 2019 by DiEM25. And DiEM25 asked a number of people to contribute to put together a program, a plan for a Green New Deal in Europe. A Green New Deal with a radical climate justice perspective. So a Green New Deal alternative to the Green Deal of the European Union, of course, no? So within this campaign, we met and put together this idea of care income, which means goes along the lines of the universal basic income, but it differs in the sense that while the universal basic income is very is unconditional, no? It's thought of as an unconditional transfer. The care income is thought as specifically to compensate the injustice of unremunerating care work in society. So the idea is that carers, whoever they are, so not just women, but all people who do care work, have a debt with society. Society has a debt towards, is indebted to carers, right? Especially we are talking here about unpaid care work, of course, because society is free riding upon this caring work, which is essential and necessary, but also unremunerated, and this not remuneration is actually burdening a number of people who are who do not have the luxury of freeing themselves from care work. So they have to do it. So there is no romanticism here. There's a lot of people who actually they have to do care work because there's no other way for them to carry on. And at the same time, they are doing something that is socially necessary. And so the idea of the care income is to recognize and compensate this work in a way which is, of course, in a social way, in a socially defined way, and not on the market. So it's not about, the care income is not about putting care work on, giving care work market value, but it is about paying for it, guaranteeing the needs of the carers as workers, recognizing that they are workers. And so for us, this was part of a larger package, the package of the plan of the Green New Deal. So this was one of many other measures, but the idea was actually to recognize this care work done, not only in the home, but also in communities, and as I was saying before, and also the care work done on the land, for example, in peasant farming, and in the Global Women's Strike has done a lot of work with peasant farmers, especially in India, with the the peasant strike that went on last year, if you remember, for a long time, and there was actually one. So that is a very important example of what people can achieve when they are struggling for their rights in a way that is in a way that is in a convergence, no, in unity among different movements. Okay, I think I will stop here.
Ah, okay. That was it. You didn't have to stop that abruptly. Feel free to add another few sentences.
No, I just wanted to give you some inputs, and then I want to hear from you and have a conversation and answer any questions, but also especially you know, thinking together, because of course there are a number of challenges in this perspective. So I want to hear from you what challenges you see, and also how can we think them through.
Thank you, Stefania.
I would just briefly say at a technical level, please everybody feel very encouraged to write your questions into the chat, because that allows us to have a bit of an overview if you want. And also just to say, I see some people kind of come in again that have been there before. So if anybody is having technical problems, drop us a message in the chat also, so we understand how we can help if it's needed.
So I'm gonna stop the recording now.